still in a sexual relationship all the time?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many months is that?
About 4 months.
You are the father. How are you feeling in this moment?
I had already accepted the situation when I knew he wasn't, but it's to actually know he's not mad, it just hurts a little bit more.
Mr. Campbell, you are not the father.
Ms. Hulsinger is suing Mr. May based on the paternity of her 2-year-old son. After signing the boy's birth certificate after he was born, the defendant has neglected his responsibilities to him as a father. Why did he sign the birth certificate if he didn't believe he fathered the child in question? Let's find answers together.
In the court for a DNA test, prove that the defendant is the father of your 2-year-old son, Gabriel. You say Mr. May has abandoned his responsibilities and he will get the truth today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. May, you claim you were pressured into signing the birth certificate and now you are stuck with a woman.
So does this mean the defendant did absolutely nothing for the child since he was born? Now, why would he choose to do that? Right now, that remains a mystery. Perhaps we can find out what went wrong if we knew how their relationship began.
So you're not doing anything for this child
No,
right
Your Honor.
now?
I'm out of the child's life right now.
The child's 2 years old?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you agree? Nothing, Ms. Hulsinger?
He hasn't done anything for my son at all. He missed his first steps, him calling his first words, which was dad.
Interesting. Now we get that they met off a chat line and they took things too far too soon. Well, if they had sex without protection, that makes him a strong father candidate, doesn't it?
How did it get?
The chatting and things start happening.
So then you matter? Obviously.
Yes, ma'am.
Take me to the night in question where all the chatting turned into paternity court material.
Your Honor, it was a late night. She was one of the young ladies who was on at the other end of the line and left me a message. I left her a message and...
As it appears, the chat line couple had sex without protection on their first night together. Whoa, how wild is that? So that means he could be the child's father after all. Now it would be interesting to know if she reaches out to him after she found out she was pregnant. And if she did, what was his response?
I called him and told him that it was a possibility of me having his child.
Months and months passed by, and then she just told me that she was pregnant.
Were you all still in a sexual relationship all
Yes,
the time?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many months is that?
About 4 months.
Okay. Mr. May claims initially accepted that the child could be his. If that was the case, why the sudden change of heart? But what makes things more interesting is the plaintiff's dispute of the defendant's claims of accepting the pregnancy. Let's find out what she has to say.
When she told me she was pregnant, I was gonna be there for her.
And were you happy? Were you saying, oh, I'm gonna have another child?
I was excited.
You're lying.
Why is he lying, Ms. Hulsinger? What was his response? Is he lying about that too?
He was like, are you serious? Are you...
Right now, there's a confusion about Mr. May's initially response and attitude towards finding out that the plaintiff might be pregnant by him. All right, let's say he accepted that he could be responsible for the pregnancy. At what point did he start having doubts? Learning this will give us a clearer picture of why they ended up here in the first place. And hearing his response will shock you.
Did you have doubts in the beginning, Mr. May?
No, I did not in the beginning.
Yes, you did.
Not in the beginning. She told me her word, I took her word for what it was. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't.
That's not true.
That's not true.
At what point did you say to yourself, I may not be the only possible father here?
Whoa, did Ms. Hulsinger really hide behind the refrigerator? If she did, the defendant's doubts will be understandable because that only means one thing. He isn't the only candidate for the biological father trophy. It would be interesting to hear her admit she did and why she had to.
Were you hiding behind the refrigerator, Ms. Hulsinger?
Yes, ma'am, I was because
in your own house?
Yes, ma'am, because this man would not leave me alone. And I did not want to deal with him. And he would just pop up all the time, and I just didn't want to deal with that.
Well, that's not all. Mr. May has more to say about his doubts. It just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it? It would be interesting to hear more of what he has to say. The thing is, if you were on Ms. Hulsinger's side from the beginning, you would think of switching sides once you hear what the defendant has to say next.
And though, Your Honor.
Oh, what else?
I mean, I'm not too heavy of a sleeper, so at the time, I'm spending the night with her. I'm seeing messages pop up on the phone. That led me to doubt too. Not only the backdoor situation, but just text messages, you know what I mean? Things I would hear on the streets. And
Ms. Hulsinger is ready to argue her way out of Mr. May's accusations. But let's face the truth. Why did she hide behind the refrigerator on that faithful day? What has she got to say about that? Regardless of her explanations, it's understandable that the defendant's doubts originated from those awkward situations he uncovered.
I wasn't even in a relationship, so why would I have to hide somebody's
Why was she hiding
name and a
herself,
number?
Your Honor? Why was she hiding herself from when the dude knocked on the back door? She wasn't.
Because he was my stalker.
Okay, so bottom line is you were hearing rumors, you saw messages on her phone.
Guys knocking at the back door, Your Honor.
So we get that Mr. May discovered a lot of hurtful things about Ms. Hulsinger, which is enough to make any man doubt paternity. But how was he able to put himself together to be there on the day of the child's delivery? Because you would have to force a man to appear in the hospital, let alone sign the birth certificate after such discoveries.
So when you actually went into labor?
Yes, ma'am, he wasn't there for me. My family member actually had to go and get him so he could come up there and see my son.
Oh, so they went to go get him.
And I
Yes,
had
ma'am.
my doubt. I had my doubts. That's why I wasn't willing to.
Due to the wild mysteries in their relationship, it's hard to tell if Mr. May indeed fathered Ms. Hulsinger's son, because he had sex with her countless times without protection. Well, the only way to uncover the truth is by hearing the DNA test results.
Mr. May, you are the father. Good news.
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
He has a great father.
Listen,
I can't tell.
listen, it's amazing when I think about you all saying you just were feeling lonely and didn't know what to do with yourself, so you just called a chat line.
Ms. Martinez appears before the judge claiming that Mr. Hernandez has denied paternity for not one, but both of her children. Now she wants a DNA test for both kids and child support. However, the defendant isn't ready to bulge and is ready to go to whatever length to prove he didn't father any of the kids in question.
Martinez, you say your family is torn apart since the defendant has denied both of your children, 4-year-old Richard II and 3-year-old Renee. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have petitioned the court for a DNA test to prove the truth and hope.
One of the kids is 4 years old while the other is 3. It would be interesting to know what Mr. Hernandez has done to cater for them since they were born, but it would be absurd if he did nothing for them just because he had doubts without substantial proof that they are not his. Let's find out if he did.
That the results will save your relationship.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hernandez, you say you were suckered into claiming the plaintiff's 2 children and can't trust anything she's said. You're currently behind more than $6,000 in child support and
So, according to the plaintiff's statement, the defendant did absolutely nothing for the kids besides $200 clothing. How true is that? Well, let's hear him defend himself.
refuse to care for either child until it is proven.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Hernandez, what has he done for the children?
Absolutely nothing until about 3 weeks ago. He did get them at least $200 worth of clothing, but other than that, that's all he's done their whole life.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Whatever his issues are with their mother, he should have done more for the kids. You can only imagine how this has affected the kids. As we all know, it's really traumatic for kids to grow up without their father's love and support. Although he claims he gave his alleged kids his best, their mother states otherwise. Well, men need to understand this. Until it's proven that the kid isn't yours, it's not okay to neglect your responsibilities.
My kids suffer. Every night when I put them to bed, they cry asking where he's at. He doesn't call to check on them, to even get them on the phone and say, can I talk to them? Can I see how they're
That's
doing?
a lie, Your Honor.
He does nothing.
I try as much as I can, but it's hard to try to do that when I don't know if they're mine for sure.
It's obvious that there's a wild mystery about the plaintiff's relationship with the defendant. But what could be the cause of that? Perhaps we will get a better picture if we knew how their relationship started, and if there was genuine love between them.
Obviously, the relationship is in trouble. How did this start?
We first met, she was trying to get all over me or whatever from the beginning, but I ignored her.
Were you interested in having a relationship with him at that point?
Relations, but not a relationship.
Okay. And what were your intentions, Mr. Hernandez?
Although it wasn't so serious from the beginning, their love grew. But the defendant makes serious allegations about the plaintiff that would suggest that she wasn't all in with him. Now, what are those allegations? And they enough for him to doubt the paternity of his 2 kids?
Being serious, I felt like it was, and I don't know, I wanted to be with her. All of a sudden, I find out she's doing other things with my friends and stuff.
What a minute. She did what with who? Apparently, Mr. Hernandez has a solid reason for doubting paternity, but those are his words. It would be interesting to hear what she has to say about his strong allegations.
Doing other things like
It's a one incident he's talking about, Your Honor. It was a one-time thing. Me and his friend had messed around.
See? You see the stuff that
wow.
Wow! A one-time stuff? Really, Ms. Martinez? Now, how do you not expect him to doubt paternity? After his discoveries, it is mysteriously weird that he continue his relationship with her. As it turns out, the romantic feeling wasn't mutual. It was one-sided.
You stayed with her.
Yes. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I mean,
And
it's
he
been
can't
so long
say that
now.
because even prior to that, I was always told him I didn't want to be in a relationship. He forced it. He was always like, come on, please be with me. I don't know why you don't want to be with me.
That's
and I
a
told him
lie.
I wanted to be single because I wasn't ready to be tied down with one person. So every time I would have,
That's a lie.
relationships with other people, I would tell him.
She sleeps with men.
I
my
would tell him
friends,
and I
Your
would
Honor.
say, hey, I did have sex with somebody the night before or whatever.
Apparently, the plaintiff was brutally honest with the defendant about her feelings, but he was so blinded by his feelings for her that he didn't care. Come to think of it, if she didn't feel anything for him like she claimed, she shouldn't have been around him that much.
I felt like it was something else other than that. I didn't.
It sounds like she's being brutally honest throughout this, but you're not wanting to hear it.
If she didn't want to be with me, she didn't like me. Well, why would she still come to
I
my
did
house?
have feelings for
a
him,
2-hour
but
drive
I was not
on the
ready
bus
to be
for
committed.
what?
I liked hanging out with him. He was more like my best friend when we first. I was going through a lot of things.
Well, we're not here for their weird relationship drama, even though we needed to understand how their relationship started and how serious it's been. Now, let's get back to the paternity case. The main thing right now is to find out if Ms. Martinez had sex with someone else other than Mr. Hernandez during the window of conception.
Is that true, Ms. Martinez? Were
Yes,
you
it is.
intimate with another man a
Yes,
few
Your
weeks
Honor.
before you told him you were pregnant?
Yes, I did have intercourse with him 3 times and unprotected that night. And I told him about it. He still wanted to be with me.
She lied about it.
I did.
First
I
of all,
did.
she said
I
that
did
it
tell
was
him that we did it.
protected.
The fact that they had a serious relationship while the plaintiff had multiple sex partners remains a wild mystery. But hey, it is what it is. Let's just get the FNA test results and get it over it.
Mr. Hernandez, you are his father. Moving on. In this particular case, your doubt was really about the fact that she had this one-night stand with the person you knew.
Today's case is one filled with wild mysteries beyond your imagination. Mr. Thompson is seriously in need of a paternity test to determine if his wife's newborn baby is indeed his biological son. The fate of their marriage hangs delicately on the outcome of the result. Once again, the stakes are very high.
Mr. Thompson, you are in court today in hopes of saving your 11-year marriage. Your wife has a newborn 4-month-old Micah Pate Thompson, who you hope is your baby, but say your doubts are overwhelming. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Firstly, we need to understand the status of the relationship between the plaintiff and the defendant presently. As you would expect, their current status is rocky, and that's why they are in court today. But Mr. Thompson's testimony will definitely make you scratch your head in surprise.
The current status of our relationship is it's rocky. We haven't had sex probably in about 7-8 months. And it's just she don't like to cook, she don't like to clean, she don't like to work. So it's a lot going on other than Micah. So it's.
Although the plaintiff isn't sure if he fathered the child, he clearly has a special relationship with him. But will the outcome of the DNA test change how he feels about him? Let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
Want this baby to be your biological child, but you truly doubt.
I would love for him to be my son. If he wasn't mine, I don't know if I could raise another man's child. But with everything going on and the connection that me and Micah has together.
Regardless of their present rocky situation, there's clearly lots of love in this beautiful family. But the wild mystery remains. Why are they here today? It all started with a shameful discovery.
We got married. I got married in a jogging suit. We had a t-shirt.
I had t-shirt, jeans, and Timberlands on, and I was drunk. Yeah, I was kind of toasted.
It sounds like it was an interesting and entertaining day.
Oh, there's more. This isn't the first time the couple would take a DNA test for their child. But how can this be a norm if they were so in love with each other and trust one another? Well, at this point, it still remains a mystery.
I had to get a DNA test on my first two boys by her. We married, but every time while we in a marriage,
I was going to ask the same question.
I don't understand.
What happened in this relationship?
Honestly, Your Honor, I think when we first got married, we really weren't ready to be married.
Apparently, Mr. Thompson left his wife at some point because they clearly weren't aren't ready for something as serious as marriage. Here comes the crazy part. While the plaintiff was away, he broke his marital vows. But the funny thing is this, he expected her to stay loyal to the cause. How hilarious is that?
When I left, she said she was gonna work on herself. Me and her had ample
While he was
conversations
with somebody else.
about her working on herself. She was working on herself because she deleted me off social media. I found out she started adding all these other dudes to her social media page.
Because you were gone. You were living with somebody else.
Now at this point, you would think they are planning to get a divorce. But guess what? Someone doesn't see that as an option, while the other person does. Crazy, right? Well, you haven't heard it all.
Were you all planning to get a divorce?
Nah.
Yes.
So you just gonna go move in with somebody else and still think you're gonna be married?
When I said something about a divorce, she didn't want a divorce.
As soon as he left and I found out that he was staying with somebody else and they were supposed to be in a relationship, I printed up the divorce papers myself.
For something that started off so beautiful, it's unfortunate that they couldn't make things work while they could. Perhaps they still can. After his adventures outside his marriage, the plaintiff came back home to make things work again. But the defendant had other plans. And boy, can you blame her for that?
When I came back, we was under understanding that I was gonna come back and we was gonna work on our marriage. She told me that she was going to Atlanta for a job interview. I said, what job interview you going to? And she named a couple jobs off and I said, okay. So me being me in that conversation, when me and her got done talking, I got on the phone with my mother and I was like, she not going to no Atlanta for no job interview. She going to Atlanta to do what she was gonna do.
What's more crazy is this. That wasn't the only time the defendant took a page from her husband's playbook, but this time around the plaintiff did a little investigation, and you probably guessed what he discovered, but you can't tell for sure unless you hear it from him.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And then when do you find out you're pregnant?
Hold on, she went back to Atlanta 2 weeks later.
For a follow-up interview?
Yeah, she said a second interview. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to leave nothing out because I don't want anybody to say.
I know that's right. You go ahead and prove your case, Mr. Thompson.
Not denying her husband allegations, Ms. claims all she did was just payback for his atrocities. As it turns out, Mr. Thompson left out his wrongdoings in his testimony, but focused on exposing hers. Nah, it doesn't work that way in court, Mr. Thompson. The whole truth has to come out today.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true, Your Honor, but he skips over all the stuff that he did. Besides the going back and forth all summer between me and the other girl, and then moving all the way to Alabama with the girl and leaving me with the kid.
Now we know for sure that the cheating wasn't one-sided. It went both ways. Well, that's a case for a marital court. Right here in this moment, all that matters is the paternity of the little baby they came to court for. So let's hear Judge Lake read out the results.
Mr. Thompson, you are not the father. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, sir. How are you feeling in this moment?
I had already accepted the situation when I knew he wasn't, but it's to actually know he's not mad, it just hurts a little bit more.
There are lots of paternity cases with wild mysteries, but this one comes in another dimension. Ms. Anthony claims her relationship with Mr. Porcio wasn't long-term, but it led to her getting pregnant by him. Today, they are both in court to prove whether or not he's the child's biological father.
You claim you had a short-term relationship with the defendant, Mr. Porcio, who was initially excited when you told him you were pregnant. But now you are furious he is denying your 8-month-old son Matt. Is that correct?
Yes.
Fascinatingly, the defendant alleges that the kid isn't his, and he's saying this because the plaintiff confessed to some things she was involved in during the window of conception. How true is that? Well, according to him, their relationship was never a serious one, and she has an agenda for trying to pin the child on him.
Mr. Porcio, you say you've never taken Ms. Anthony seriously, and she herself confessed to sleeping with other men during the time of conception. You believe the only reason Ms. Anthony is pinning her child on you is because you married someone else. Is that correct?
The thing is this, as long as they had unprotected sex, there's a great possibility that the kid might be Mr. Porcio's biological son. With that in mind, he must have been there for the child one way or the other. Let's find out if he did.
So, Ms. Anthony, what has Mr. Porcio done for your child?
Not a damn thing, Your Honor. Nothing, not a diapers, not wipes, not formula.
Apparently, he was never there for the child, not even for a single time. Well, since they never took a DNA test, he should have thought of the possibility that the kid could be his and did his bit at least till everything was certain. What does he have to say about that?
That's
Not
only
anything.
because she told me that the child wasn't
I'm getting to
mine.
that. I did tell him that the child was not his, but Your Honor, he was not in a very good place in his life. He was partying, and I was partying too, but once I found out I was pregnant, I put all those things aside and did what I had to.
To be fair to Mr. Porcio, Ms. Anthony did admit that she initially told him the baby wasn't his. So why come out now with claims that the baby belongs to him? It just makes no sense.
But
Your
she
Honor.
told me that I wasn't the father.
Later on, I
Told
did
me
tell her you
that
wasn't the father.
her ex-boyfriend was the father, that she was pregnant before she met me.
And now you say he's denying the baby. But
because-
you admit to telling him he wasn't the father.
Yes, ma'am, I did, and I understand that was me being.
In such cases, it's always sensible to understand the nature of the relationship before going deep into the main case, in the sense that we need to know how serious the relationship was. And hearing them talk about it, it doesn't seem like what you would call a romantic relationship, although there were romantic activities involved.
I was sitting at the bus stop, and he walked up to me and asked me about one of my tattoos, and we just clicked from there. We were amazing when we were together. We didn't fight very much. We never argued. And then I went away for a little while, and it just got...
We had mainly a party relationship, to be honest with you.
Now, with that out of the way, the next thing we need to know if their sexual relationship involved the use of protection. If it did involve protection, then there will be no case at all. It would be fascinating to know their answers to such a question.
Were you using protection?
No, Your Honor, we were not. And he was there, so that's why I'm mainly upset. You were there for the 25 minutes of pleasure. Well, it's been 9 months. It's been 9 months, and I bought every diaper.
We get that Mr. Porcio claims he would have been there for the child if he was informed that the child could be his from the beginning, but the plaintiff alleges that she tried reaching him. And to make things more interesting, she came to court with proof to back her claims.
There was
Excuse
a
me.
possibility that it was mine in the beginning. I would have been around.
I've tried to contact him on multiple occasions. I have text messages right here
I'd like to see
that
that.
I've attempted to, and that's from his spouse. That's not from him because he blocks me and doesn't.
Okay.
Now, let's try to understand the situation better. Did Miss Anthony tell the defendant right after she took the pregnancy test that he wasn't responsible for it or not? Her answer would determine if Mr. Porcio really had the intention to take responsibility from the onset.
At some point, you figure out you're pregnant. You take a test and he's with you.
Yes.
But when you took the test and it came back positive, you immediately told him you're not father?
Oh no, not immediately.
All right, tell me what happened then.
Well, we went to
Actually,
bed
she
that
did.
night, and I laid there all night and was like, I can't do this. My son deserves better, or my child, at the point I didn't know it was a boy, but my child deserves
Actually-
better than this. I don't know what to do.
In terms of the window of conception, Mr. Porcio isn't sure if he had sex with Ms. Anthony during that period. He doesn't even know what it means. But guess what? She claims he did. Also, she presented what she claims to be proof that he did. How convenient of her.
Were you having sex with Ms. Anthony during the window of conception, Mr. Puccio?
I don't know what the window of conception was, so honestly, I don't have an answer for that, Your Honor.
Okay, that's
Yes,
fair.
he was. I have pictures with dates on them right
I'd
here.
like to see that, please. Jerome, will you hand me her evidence?
And that was
Just when you thought she was getting the upper hand, the defendant reveals another truth. His claims debunks her entire alleged proof about having sex with him during the window of conception. Now this is getting really interesting.
After she told me that she was pregnant with
No.
another man's child and I wasn't the father, I was trying to stay around
no, those
to
were
help her
before,
take
honey. Don't you
care
sit there
of
and
the
lie. That
child.
April
I offered
8th and the
to
April
help
4th
her
were before. That middle one was after.
Because I met
two were
you
before.
in late March, no, actually late February, and you supposedly got pregnant early March.
At some point, the plaintiff's claims made sense, but not so much when the defendant dropped his claims like a bomb. In the end, we still can't get to the bottom of the child's paternity. Well, that's why they took the DNA test, so let's get to that.
Mr. Puccio, you are the father. That's the first time I've seen you smile today, Mr. Puccio.
This is all he really ever wanted, is to have a child of his own, and specifically a son. So on his end and on my end, basically makes the child my stepchild.
It does.
It does.
I work.
So that means
I
I'm gonna
make
be-
decent money, and
The reason Mr. Campbell mysteriously walked out on his ex-wife and his alleged son over 3 decades ago still remains a mystery. But today, his ex-wife, Ms. Hauser, is charging him to court to confirm the paternity of her son, Mr. Michael. This is a serious case because the test result could increase the chance of finding a solution to Mr. Michael's medical condition.
You claim your ex-husband unexpectedly walked out on you when your son, Michael Campbell, was 5 months old. You say your son has had medical problems since he was a child, and you have petitioned the court for a DNA test in order to hopefully find a solution.
The defendant, however, alleges he didn't father the plaintiff's son, and today he's in court to confirm his claims. Well, they should have done this a long time ago, if not for anything, but for the sake of the unwell young man.
Mr. Campbell, you say you never believed the plaintiff's son belonged to you, and today's result will prove your case and clear your name. Is that correct?
Although Mr. Campbell is hell-bent on not accepting Mr. Michael as his son, Ms. Hauser is more than sure that he fathered her son. Perhaps her explanation will sound convincing enough to make us believe her. However, they won't be enough to prove that the defendant is indeed her son's biological father.
So, Ms. Hauser, how positive are you that the defendant is your son's father?
100%, Your Honor.
You are. Explain.
Mr. Campbell and I met when I was a junior and he was a senior in high school. And what ended up happening was mid to late July, early August, I became pregnant.
As it turns out, the ex-lovers ran away and got married against Mr. Campbell's parents' wishes. But the weird mystery is this: if the defendant never thought he was responsible for the pregnancy, why did run away and get married to her? Thinking it through, it doesn't make sense that any man would do that for a woman carrying a child that isn't his. He literally threw his life away when he made that decision, and it couldn't have been for nothing.
So you made the decision, Mr. Campbell, to elope with Ms. Hauser?
Yes.
You knew she was pregnant, and your family, they were not fond of this union.
My father wasn't, no.
And so you're pregnant,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
get married.
Interestingly, Ms. Hauser states some claims that rather suggests that Mr. Campbell never doubted Mr. Michael's paternity. According to her, after they got divorced, he and his family made some moves that cements her claim of him being her son's biological father. If that's the case, why is the defendant denying paternity?
Ms. Hauser, you seem surprised.
Oh, very surprised. If Mr. Campbell was not Michael's father, why did he sign the birth certificate? Why, when we got divorced, did Mr. Campbell and his family try to get custody?
There are so many mysteries in this case. As of yet, we still don't understand why Mr. Campbell married Ms. Hauser if he claims he didn't believe the child was his. He really needs to make the court understand why he chose to be with her, even though he had doubts.
And this, you're saying you knew soon as when you married her that this wasn't your child.
Yes, ma'am.
So why marry a woman who's pregnant with another man's child and you don't believe it? There's any possibility that it's yours?
She was my first love, and
Another interesting thing is this. Ms. Hauser makes a strong claim when asked about the possibility of her being with another man around the time the child was conceived. Finally, Mr. Campbell states his reasons for doubting the child's paternity, and his reasons made a bit of sense.
Other possibilities?
No, ma'am, there is not.
So,
Your Honor.
Mr. Campbell, I'd like to understand your doubt. Why do you doubt?
well, when Peggy and I were together, we broke up right after I graduated, before summer had started, and we didn't get back together until August of 1980.
However, the plaintiff does not agree with the defendant's claims. What's more is that she never knew he had doubts about their son's paternity all the years he left them. Not until a few years ago when she had to contact him. How weird is that?
See it that way, Ms. Hauser?
No, Your
How
Honor,
do
I
you
don't.
remember it?
I just don't understand how Mr. Campbell can say that we were broke up. We were not broke up. We were together.
When was the first time you heard he had doubts? Because he married you and...
4 years ago. Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Hauser claims she never cheated on her ex-husband, but we can't help but wonder why they got divorced. And her explanation sounds like one hell of a misunderstanding. According to her story, Mr. Campbell thought she cheated on him when she was literally doing nothing of such. However, the defendant has an entirely different but believable story to tell.
Your Campbell were married.
Yes, ma'am.
And Michael is born. Where does the relationship go wrong? How do you end up divorced?
The relationship, Your Honor, went bad when I joined Mr. Campbell in South Carolina while he was enlisted. And then when Michael was 4 months old.
What a weirdly mysterious case it's been. I'm sure you've exhausted your pack of popcorn watching this, and I'm sorry to end your entertainment. But it's time to hear the DNA test result.
Mr. Campbell, you are not the father.
Oh my.
Well, Ms. Hauser, 35 years. You were so certain that there was no other person.
Seen gangsters go psycho on paternity court? Mr. Mason hired spies to keep tabs on his partner, Ms. Malone. And guess what? They discovered heartbreaking truths about her. As a result of that, the couple are appearing before Judge Lake to confirm the paternity of their little daughter and unborn child.
Mr. Mason, you say today will determine the future of your relationship with the defendant, Ms. Malone. You say you lost all trust when you set up a watchdog to keep tabs on Ms. Malone and discovered that she had men coming in and out of the house.
Although she's not denying the fact that she was unfaithful to her man, she's confident that he fathered her children. Even if he turns out to be the biological father to the little girl and the unborn baby, will their relationship be restored? I doubt that. But let's find out together, though.
Admit to cheating on your boyfriend, but are positive he's Avery's father. Today, you are hoping the DNA test will restore your relationship. Is that correct?
Okay, we get that he caught his woman cheating and all, but why did he resort to hiring watchdogs to monitor her movements? Hearing why he chose to do that would leave your mouth wide opened.
Okay, when me and Miss Malone actually first met, we met on a website. I took her out on a date. We went to somewhere to eat.
So this started out as a regular courtship.
Yes,
You
Your
went
Honor.
on a date.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Malone, you had a great relationship in the beginning.
Oh my days. So Ms. Malone was sleeping with multiple men for sport? Nah. This woman is a psycho. What makes it more shocking is her absurd reason for her disgusting lifestyle.
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened?
I found out that she was doing a lot of sneaking around when I was in the house.
What kind of sneaking? In the alley?
In people's cars.
You were walking in alleys, Ms. Malone?
Yes, I was sneaking around, in fact, but there was a break.
You were sneaking around doing what?
Listening to Ms. Malone's excuse, you might think they were on a break and she was with other men because Mr. Mason wasn't giving her attention. But that's not the case according to the plaintiff. It's really hard to tell what's what right now. Perhaps if we go deeper, we might understand their relationship better.
Wasn't on a break at all. We wasn't on a break.
Were you all
my
committed?
knowledge, we was in a relationship.
Your Honor,
still.
yeah, we've been on and off for 3 years now. Right now, we're off.
Are you living together?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're off, but you live together?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, let's get more details about how sneaky the defendant from the plaintiff. From his point of view, she was sneaking out the back door to hook up with other men. But in her defense, she tells a different story entirely. Now, she either telling the truth or she's a master manipulator.
That she was going out the back door and down the alley to jump in somebody's car.
I was actually coaching a local cheerleading team in our city, and a guy had came to pick me up to take me to our game that we had that day.
At this point, Judge Lake takes Ms. Malone to school regarding how she made the situation awkward. And boy, was she wrong? How can two people be in a relationship and one person decides to go on a break while the other person is still committed? That's not how a relationship works, is it?
So can you see why he maybe was suspicious about you getting picked up in the alley if you also admitted you were sleeping with other people? Or
yes, sure.
I mean, it's already confusing because he said he wasn't on break, but you said you were.
The most interesting part is this. The defendant claims she wasn't ready for a serious relationship when she newly met the plaintiff. According to her, she was forced into the relationship she has with him. How is that possible?
When we first met, I was young, didn't have any kids. I wanted to adventure, explore my options. It was, when we met, it was kind of forced.
When you say forced, what do you mean?
He moved in with us after probably a month or 2 months.
Now we have a clearer picture about the nature of their relationship. The plaintiff felt the defendant was being sneaky when she was just living her adventurous life. It's somewhat like a misunderstanding in the sense that she wasn't ready to give him the level of commitment he seeked in the relationship.
So you all are in this relationship, you start feeling like she's sneaking around.
A friend watching my front door who lived right across from where we lived at.
Oh, you had a watchdog, right?
Yes, Your Honor, every time I went to work.
All right, let's put all that aside and focus on the window of conception. It's the part where we find out if they were intimate during that period and whether or not Ms. Malone slept with someone else besides Mr. Mason. Believe me when I say this, you couldn't have guessed this part.
When you cheated, when you were out with this other person, was that during the window of conception?
Yes, Your Honor, it was.
It was.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you were cheating, did you all use protection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. When you cheated, did you also have an intimate relationship with Mr. Mason during the same window of conception?
Yes, Your Honor, multiple times.
Another interesting thing is this. Ms. Malone claims she told both possible fathers about the pregnancy when she found out that she had conceived. What's more is that she claims she told Mr. Mason about the possibility that the baby might not be his. And guess what? The plaintiff has a lot to say concerning her claims.
Found out you were pregnant. Did you tell the other guy it could possibly be his child as well?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
When you told Mr. Mason you were pregnant, did you also say to him, and you know because I cheated, it could possibly be the other guy's child as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
So she did tell you that, Mr. Mason?
All right, I believe we've heard enough. So let's move on to the most important part of this hearing. It's time for the DNA test results.
Mr. Mason, you are not her father. What are you feeling in this moment, sir?
I'm mad, Your Honor, but I can't be really mad about something that I already knew.
Ms. Malone, this other person, have you asked him whether he would be interested in being a part of Avery's life?
How do you tell a man that he fathered your child, then come back later on to say the child isn't his? Absurd, right? Well, that's the case of Mr. Campbell as he appears before Judge Lake today to claim the defendant's 3-year-old daughter is his. However, Ms. Hopper is maintaining her stance that the plaintiff isn't her daughter's biological father. Looks like we're about to see gangsters go psycho on paternity court again.
Mr. Campbell, you are in paternity court today to prove that the defendant's 3-year-old daughter, Zoe, is your child. You claim that her mother, Ms. Hopper, told you that you were her father, but now changed her story. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
As a reasonable man, knowing that you are responsible for someone else's life would definitely set you on the right path. That's why Mr. Campbell is holding on the possibility that little Zoe could be his baby girl. However, her mother has been making it really frustrating for him.
I think it's time for me to find out if Zoe is my daughter or not, if she deserves to know who her real father is. And she keeps flip-flopping, saying one day that I am, one day that I'm not the father. And being the father of Zoe, it's given me a reason.
As you would expect, Ms. Hopper speaks up to defend herself. According to her claims, the plaintiff isn't being honest about what she told him. She claims that she made some possibilities known to him about Zoe's paternity. Let's hear what those possibilities are.
I only told him there was a possibility. I've never told him that he was the father.
That's not true at all.
That is true. He knew that it was between him and my ex-boyfriend, since she was like...
According to the defendant, she told the plaintiff that her ex-boyfriend could be their daughter's potential father when she was 6 months old. But how true is that? Interestingly, Mr. Campbell has a different version of that story. Let's find out if his story is more convincing.
No, at first, she told me not to worry that it wasn't my daughter.
That it was not?
Yes, that's when she was pregnant. After she had the baby, when the baby was about 6 months old, that's when she told me that I could be the father.
Here's the question. How serious was their relationship? Perhaps it wasn't a committed one, because if it was, she would respect her boyfriend more. Or what explanation does she have for getting back with her ex? The answers she gives to these questions will blow you away.
What is this relationship? Were you all boyfriend and girlfriend? You were. And then what happened to the point that you get pregnant by maybe your ex or maybe Mr. Campbell?
At the same time.
So this wasn't a cheating thing, this was a parallel thing.
Now, it will be fascinating to know her sexual activities during the days of conception. This information will be pivotal in determining who the strongest candidate for fatherhood is between her current and ex-boyfriend. No matter how good a guesser you are, you couldn't have predicted what she has to say about that.
I just kind of thought maybe it was both of them. The day that they say she was conceived, I had seen both of them at the same time.
Same time, same day?
Same day. Not the same time, same day.
Oh, okay. So you had sex with both men in the same day?
The interesting thing is this. There's an argument between the couple about whether or not Mr. Campbell knew Ms. Hopper was seeing her ex, whilst also being with him. Whoa! Isn't that more like a love triangle relationship?
Mr. Campbell, did you know that she was also seeing her ex at the same exact time she was dating you?
I had no clue.
Okay.
Yes, yes, he did.
Did you know
No,
that
I
she had also slept with the ex on the same day she slept with you?
No.
Okay, so that's why we're here. How long did you continue this parallel affair?
Now we get that the defendant enjoyed playing both sides. but it will be interesting to know which of the men attended the doctor's appointments with her, and whoever attended the doctor's appointments probably got the honor of putting his name on the birth certificate. The question now is this: which of the possible fathers had that privilege?
He was pretty much there through the pregnancy. He was there.
Your ex-boyfriend. So he went to doctor's appointment.
And I did give him her last name.
Although Ms. Hopper allowed her ex-boyfriend to sign her daughter's birth certificate and all, some things still remain unclear in this case. Why did she flip-flop about her daughter's paternity? In the sense that she told Mr. Campbell that he's the baby's father, then she said he isn't.
I want to understand the flip-flopping in terms of paternity. You told Mr. Campbell, don't worry, she's not yours. Then you said she is yours. Then you're saying now she's not his, but Zoe calls him daddy.
For backup, the plaintiff brought his mom as a witness. It would be interesting to hear what she has to add to this complicated case. Perhaps she might enlighten us on things we're yet to understand.
Ms. Campbell, were you ever told that your son was the biological father of little Zoe?
Yes, Your Honor. I was contacted on Facebook. She let me know that she believed my son was the father, and I have some proof of it.
Oh, I'd like to see that proof.
On July 23rd, I received a friend.
Just when we thought we've seen the most interesting part, Granny serves us the best dish yet. To enjoy Granny's cooking, you need to hear her sizzling story yourself. Brace yourselves for impact.
If you're telling him that he is just a possibility, but you're telling his mom he's the only possibility, what is the story?
Your Honor, I've given him chances to take a DNA test, and he refused to do it because there's a girl he was with.
Did you refuse the DNA test, Mr. Campbell?
Oof, what a case it's been. Gangsters going psycho on paternity court. As interesting as it's been, we need to get to the most important part of this case, the DNA test result.
Mr. Campbell, you are not the father. I'm sorry. I know you really wanted to be her dad. Ms. Hopper, I wasn't sure where you were in this equation. I could never get a read.
A mother, Ms. Montoya, appears before Judge Lake to defend her son, Mr. Sensabaugh, against a woman she believes is playing on his intelligence. What makes it more personal to her is that she almost lost her son, so she's banking a lot on this paternity case. Oh my days, we're about to enjoy a show like no other. Gangsters going psycho in the courtroom. Grab your popcorn and enjoy.
Ms. Montoya, you and your son, Mr. Sensabaugh, claim you've been lied to by the defendant about the paternity of her child on numerous occasions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you say a recent near-death experience makes today's DNA results more important to you than ever.
Yes, sir.
Standing on the defense stand is Ms. Brown, admitting to some wrongs the plaintiffs accused her for. However, she has a lot she would love to share with the court. Don't bother taking a wild guess on what she's got to say. Let's hear her talk.
Ms. Brown, you admit to lying about the paternity of your daughter to both plaintiffs.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say you realize they no longer believe anything you say, and you're hoping today's results will finally uncover the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
I told you couldn't have guessed what Ms. Brown wanted to spill. Well, it seems like the so-called mama's boy has something to add to what she said. Let's hear him out too.
I'm not showing up
the relationship wasn't even all like that. Like, it wasn't even all how it seemed to be right now. Like, the relationship, she was still talking to her, you feel me, her ex, you feel me? So, like, what was I supposed to do?
Greg, you know the honest to God truth.
Okay, now we get that Ms. Montoya had to accompany her son due to his medical condition, but what we don't get was how Ms. Brown got affiliated with another man. She's got some real explanation to give the court.
When I had left California, I went to Oklahoma with my ex, and that's when the calendar comes in.
So after he didn't show up with the leasing office?
I left.
And how soon after you were intimate with Mr. Sensabaugh did you go down?
Whoa. So the defendant was intimate with her ex just after she was with the plaintiff? Man, what a situation we've got at hand. Well, to make things more interesting, she came with a piece of evidence to help the case. Let's hope it's indeed helpful.
Yes.
Is that evidence you have for me? Jerome, will you pass that?
This is the calendar of the times that you slept with both of them.
Outlined the dates you were intimate with both men on a calendar, okay? In green are the days you were intimate with Mr. Sensabaugh.
Seeing the piece of evidence Ms. Brown presented to the court, Ms. Montoya already has something she wants to bring into the light. My, oh my. What could that be? Could it be that the evidence the defendant presented isn't factual? There's only one way to find out.
But even looking at this calendar, it lets me know that she even lied about something else, because I was told she took a plane to Oklahoma, and then when she got off the plane, she was throwing up, I guess, experiencing morning sickness. Now here we go, you drove?
Greg knew.
You told me. I don't know what you told Greg or what he knew.
I never told you that I took a plane to Oklahoma.
Even though Ms. Brown tries to make the court believe that Ms. Montoya is overprotective when it comes to Mr. Sensabaugh, Granny isn't backing down. You haven't heard the last of her just yet.
That you didn't want to talk to nobody or say nothing so you could see who the baby resembled, so you can put that baby on somebody, and it just happened to be my son.
This is why I didn't want to say anything.
Interestingly, the potential baby father also has some things to share about his alleged baby mama. Besides that, he makes some strong claims about what Ms. Brown told him after the baby was born. If you've finished your popcorn, now isn't the time to get another.
At the end of the day, she didn't care about.
You don't even know me.
She didn't care about the baby feelings. She cared about the men feelings. Like, who gonna be mad? She didn't care if the baby real father was in her life. Who's the real baby? She didn't care about that at the time. She's lied.
So, Mr. Sensabaugh, when you...
All right, so Ms. Brown made it clear to Mr. Sensabaugh that he could be the baby's father. If that's the case, why not let him spend quality time with his supposed daughter? In her defense, she states her reason for keeping her daughter away from the plaintiffs.
I think I was gonna send my child to California with somebody that...
You agreed to it.
But did I do it? Did I do
it?
If I was in California, I would have let them visit her and stuff. But it was his lifestyle that I was scared of.
That's not true.
Of her letting him leave with him and something happening to my child. I love all my children equally and dearly.
Now, what kind of lifestyle does Mr. Sensabaugh live that's so bad that Ms. Brown had to keep her daughter away from him? Even his mom claims he's had 2 life-threatening incidents. Let's get answers to the question together.
My son has had 2 different, separate near-death experiences.
He has.
So does he have to die for the truth to come out?
What happened?
He's been shot.
And that's the lifestyle that I didn't want to let my daughter leave with.
You was messing with him at the time of his lifestyle.
It don't matter. My kids was nowhere involved, unattended with this.
While fighting for his life, the plaintiff claims all he thought about was the possibilities of the baby in question being his daughter. Yeah, he lives a dangerous life, but he deserves to know the truth about the little girl's paternity. Don't we all agree with that?
I almost lost my life. I got shot 6 times. I got shot in the head, in the arm, in the back, in the butt. I got shot. So after that, it made me think, like, what if the baby was mine? Like, what if that's my baby?
You woke up thinking about Malaya?
Yes.
And did you call Ms. Brown and say...
No, I called his mother. I contacted his mother.
Both sides can keep going on and on about this case, and we still won't get to the bottom of the issue at hand. But we all know what will resolve this case. So let's get to it.
Mr. Sensabaugh, you are not her father. Ms. Brown, you look relieved. Ms. Montoya, you look crushed.
It's not about being...
After being intimate with 2 men within the window of conception, Ms. Kavanaugh is accompanied by her mom to confirm the paternity of her baby. 2 of the men are present today, with one on the defense stand and the other waiting outside. Now, which of these men is the baby's biological father? Let's find out together.
Ms. Kavanaugh, you and your mother are appearing in court today to prove paternity of your 3-week-old son, Malcolm. Now, you claim his biological father is Mr. Bowles, even though you admit to being intimate with another man, Mr. McElliott, during the window of conception.
Between both men, the plaintiff claims she's sure Mr. Bowles, the defendant, fathered her daughter. How sure is she? Because the thing is, Mr. Bowles doesn't think he's responsible for her baby. Let's hear her tell her story.
Your Honor, I believe Mr. Bowles is my son's father. Even though we wasn't in a committed relationship, we had unprotected sex frequently, and he has not been around. He doesn't ask about my son. He probably didn't even know my son's name was Malcolm until now.
Astonishingly, the plaintiff's mother appears to know more about the story than her daughter. As a result, we will hear more from her as the case develops. Perhaps she will give us enough details about what went down between her daughter and the potential fathers of her grandson.
There's one other person in question, and their sexual intimacy was only once, and with Mr. Bowles.
Well, ma'am, you seem to know more about it than she does,
Yeah,
so let me bring you on in here. So you are Ms.
I'm her
Kavanaugh,
mother.
you're her mom.
And I'm a good mother, and we have a close relationship, and she tells me everything.
That's great. I'm glad that you...
Mr. Bowles seems to be so sure that little Malcolm isn't his biological son. Well, how hilarious is that? In the sense that he had sex with the plaintiff multiple times without protection. However, he does have something to say, so let's hear his side of how it went down between them.
That's because when we first met the first night, we had sex within like 20 minutes of being in her house.
It wasn't within 20 minutes.
And then, like, probably 3 weeks later, maybe 2 weeks later, I found like an open condom wrapper in her bathroom.
Whoa, so they had sex on their first night together? How wild is that? And he also found reasons to believe that she had multiple sex partners weeks after? Now we get why he has doubts about paternity. Well, let's hear what she has to say about that.
I had sex with him on the first night. Doesn't mean I have sex with everybody on the first night. I and had feelings for him. We actually talked for a couple years on Facebook before I even met him. So we had some type of connection. It wasn't just he came over one night and just we did it.
Now let's jump to part where she found out she was pregnant. She claims she told Mr. Bowles about the pregnancy after she discovered it because she believed he was responsible. But here is the important question. Did she sleep with the other guy during the window of conception? Her answer to that question will have you shocked.
Right, so now you find out you're pregnant. When you find out, who do you tell?
Your Honor, I told him. I told Mr. Bowles because that's who I believed was the father. It was the right date, right conception time. But I did have one sexual encounter.
While Mr. Bowles was stating his doubts earlier, the plaintiff interrupted him. But since she's made her point, it's only fair that he's allowed to continue. Just when you thought you've heard it all, he sends your mind to oblivion.
Here today, you know, Mr. Bowles, I'm trying to understand your doubt fully.
And also before she got pregnant, she actually lied about being pregnant maybe like some weeks before.
But what's more, mind-blowing is that Ms. Kavanaugh didn't lie about the fact that she lied to Mr. Bowles about being pregnant before she actually conceived. Then she gives absurd reasons for her bizarre actions. You couldn't have guessed what her reasons were.
That is true. The way that I found out that I was truly pregnant with my son is because I was very childish when I was talking to Mr. Bowles. Like, I really cared about him and I desperately wanted him to care about me because we were with each other basically every other night, if not every night. He was coming to my house.
Mr. Bowles claims he wasn't really excited about the news of Ms. Kavanaugh getting pregnant. Why wasn't he expecting that given the fact that it was a norm for them to have unprotected sex? Well, his reasons appear to be understandable given the things he discovered about her.
So, Mr. Bowles, when you heard about the pregnancy, were you excited?
Actually, at first I didn't believe her.
Okay.
And then I did start to believe her. I wouldn't say I was excited. I was still being around.
Yes,
I knew that she was with other guys. And actually, I think it's more than just one other guy because...
Just when we thought Mr. Bowles was getting the upper hand in this hearing, Ms. Kavanaugh drops a bomb on him. Apparently, she was pushing to have a committed relationship with him and decided to take a bold step. But instead of the defendant agreeing to play ball with her, he kicked the ball out of the field.
I understand his reasoning, like he was acting like he was the father, but when I told him I wanted to be in a committed relationship, I said I don't want to have sex until we are in a committed relationship. I was just tired of it. I was done. I didn't want him to disrespect me anymore. I could be carrying your child and you just disrespect me.
Now the interesting thing is this. Even though it's clear that Mr. Bowles is a psychotic gangster, Ms. Kavanaugh really hopes he's her son's biological father, but he clearly isn't down for that. Fascinatingly, the other man waiting outside the courtroom is ready to do anything for her. Wow, love is truly blind.
Ms. Kavanaugh, do you want to be with him so desperately that you just want him to be the father? Or do you truly believe in your heart he is your child's father?
Your Honor.
Because there's a difference.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Like,
with all we've heard, we can conclude that no amount of testimony would make Mr. Bowles believe that he fathered the child in question. However, there's a huge possibility that the other man could be his biological father. Therefore, it's best we hear the test results and get it over with.
Mr. McElliott, you are not his father. Mr. Bowles, you are not his father.
I'm sorry.
Calm down.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to put you guys through all that.
I am hoping that
You've seen several gangsters go psycho on paternity court, but none of them will keep on the edge of your seat like this. How do you feel when your dad walks out of your life on your birthday? Yep, you heard that right. That's the story of Ms. Jacobs as she sues her alleged father to court to confirm paternity.
Ms. Jacobs, you claim that your world was shattered just after your 14th birthday when your dad suddenly up and disappeared.
Yes, Your Honor.
Today you say you've brought him to our courtroom to demand answers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Apparently, Mr. Walker claims he overheard some things during his supposed daughter's 14th birthday, and what he heard made him believe that she isn't his biological daughter. Now, what could he have heard to make him walk out on a girl he raised from birth? Well, let's hear what this psychotic gangster of a man has to say to justify his ridiculous actions.
On her 14th birthday, Your Honor, we were outside celebrating with 4th of July. I heard an argument inside the house. So I go in to see what's going on, and my ex-wife, her mother, and her sister was in there, and she was screaming at her mother like, well, she was drinking, so she was being belligerent and stuff. She's like, well, you know there's a chance they're not his kids, and I don't know what to do.
Whoa! Now we get why Mr. Walker walked out on his family. It's really too hard a pill for any man to swallow. Perhaps Ms. Jacobs had never heard this story, and that's why she's been so mad at him. Well, we can't blame her for her mother's wrongdoings.
Jacobs, did you overhear or know all of this was going on at your 14th birthday party?
No, I actually just seen him walk out of the house. He was really angry, so I didn't understand what was going on at all.
From her testimony, we can tell that she was really devastated when the man she had always known as her father left her without a word. Even if he explained it to her back then, she wouldn't have been able to understand the situation. However, she wrote him a letter which she never sent to him.
For the court, please.
I can. It says, Dad, I wish you never left. It really sucks that you're not here. Every night I pray that you come back. Sometimes I even pretend that what it would be like if you were still here. I don't know when I'm ever going to see you again, and it hurt. I'm kind of angry about it too. Why did you ever leave me?
You can tell from the look in Mr. Walker's eyes that hearing Ms. Jacobs read the letter breaks his heart into 1,000 pieces. Could she have been aware that her alleged father was fighting paternity doubts in his mind when she wrote him that letter? Well, that's her question to answer, not ours.
Did you know that your father at that time didn't know whether he was truly your biological father?
No, Your Honor.
You had no idea?
I didn't understand until I was 16 years old. It was really hard. I actually ended up getting pregnant when I was 16 just to be emancipated.
Really?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you got pregnant on purpose?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's really heartbreaking to know what the young woman had to do to get free from her foster home. And you can tell how hurtful it is for Mr. Walker as he explains that he had no idea his baby girl went through all of that. However, he has a lot to share about her mother. And we can't explain the things he has to say about the plaintiff's mother better, so let's hear him tell his heartbreaking story.
You had no idea your daughter was going through all of this?
No, Your Honor. The foster care, she went to foster care because I had a job, and when I threw her mother out because of all that coming out at her birthday party, I set her mother out. I had enough.
My, oh my! So the plaintiff's mother's cheating habit had been her character way long before she got married to the defendant? How crazy is that? Even though he trusted her above his family, it would be fascinating to know if he ever caught her red-handed.
Did you ever actually catch her cheating?
I did at one time, told me I could go visit my brother, and she was going to go visit her mother. Well, and I called her a few hours later at her mother's house.
The deeper we go into this story, the more we understand the things that transformed Mr. Walker from the sweet father to the psychotic gangster he became. The plaintiff's mother really did put him through hell, all in the name of love. Well, that's not all he has to say. Here is more.
He said, you know where he lives? I'm like, no, I don't know where he lives. So he said, well, I'll give it to you. He wrote the address down. I said, I don't even know how to get there. And he said, I'll give you directions. I went down, and when I got to the house, I knocked on the door, and she was sitting in on the couch. They were all drinking. It was just her and 5 other guys.
It just gets darker and darker as Mr. Walker digs deep into his ex-wife's miserable past. It would be interesting to know if Ms. Jacobs had ever heard anything close to what her dad just revealed about her mother. If she did, we doubt if she would ever think of bringing her alleged father to paternity court.
Had you ever heard any rumors that Mr. Walker may not be your biological father?
Yes. When I was 16, I told my mother that I didn't want to be around anymore. that I wanted my dad to come down for my daughter's birth, her birth.
It's been from one bad story to another about Ms. Jacobs' mother, and if we continue listening to them, I doubt we would be done in an hour. So let's get to the real reason this court was summoned. It's time to hear the DNA test result.
Mr. Walker, you are Iesha's father.
I love you.
Well, I hope that now that you have the truth,
Introducing the case of Adams versus Williams. Ms. Adams expresses the urgency of the matter concerning her son, Mr. Adams, who is joining remotely from Flint, Michigan. He cannot leave his state due to legal restrictions and is facing possible arrest for unpaid child support. Both Ms. Adams and Mr. Adams aim to prove that he is not the father of Ms. Williams' 3-year-old son to avoid incarceration.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is a case of Adams versus Williams.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Ms. Adams, you say you're here today regarding a matter of extreme urgency.
Yes.
Now, your son, Mr. Adams, is joining us via satellite from Flint, Michigan. And you claim he's on the verge of being arrested for back child support.
Ms. Williams asserts that Mr. Adams is indeed the biological father of her son. She believes his legal troubles are a result of his own actions, claiming he has not taken responsibility for the child. The judge allows Mr. Adams to speak from Flint, wanting to hear his side of the story. Ms. Adams begins explaining how they ended up in this difficult situation, emphasizing the dire consequences for her son.
I mean, when we was young at the time, we hooked up on and off, and it just.
So it was just an on and off thing?
Yeah, it was just an on and off thing.
So if it wasn't committed during that time, were you also sleeping with other men as well?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Without using protection?
Yes.
All right, so the doubts that Mr. Adams and his mother have, they are valid doubts.
Ms. Adams is worried about her son potentially going to jail for child support on a child that both she and Mr. Adams doubt is his. Mr. Adams confirms that their relationship was not serious, recalling their first encounter at a party. He describes Ms. Williams' approach and implies that her character was questionable based on her actions. The judge questions Ms. Williams about her intentions when they met, leading to her acknowledgement that their relationship was casual and involved multiple partners.
No, Your Honor, only due to the fact that I was incarcerated, so I didn't receive any court subpoenas, anything, Your Honor. I was incarcerated.
So you didn't show up that day and you were deemed the father by default.
Ms. Williams admits to having slept with other men without protection during her relationship with Mr. Adams, validating the doubts he has about paternity. She explains that while she was pregnant, she initially believed the child was her ex-boyfriend's. After discovering he was not the father, she reached out to Mr. Adams to inform him of the possibility that he could be. However, she did not seek support from him until she had to name a potential father for state assistance.
First off, when I was dancing, the only person that ever watched my kid when I was dancing was my mom, most of the time.
You're lying, because you said your mother didn't like you and wouldn't watch the child.
So now what are you doing for yourself?
Right now I work at Memorial Hermit in Houston, Texas.
So you have a job?
Yes, I have a job.
And you trying to better yourself?
I'm trying to better myself.
And get your life together for your child?
Yes, I am.
That's what I want to hear. And Mr. Adams, was it your understanding that you may be the father or that you were the father?
Mr. Adams explains that he did not attend court because he was imprisoned and did not receive any notifications about the proceedings. Because he missed court, he was declared the father by default. Ms. Adams shares how she learned about the situation through a conversation overheard between Ms. Williams and her daughter, in which Ms. Williams allegedly denied Mr. Adams being the father. Mr. Adams disputes this, claiming he has heard Ms. Williams say otherwise.
Asked you to take a DNA test.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor, she did.
Why didn't you take it?
His excuse was he had a hangover, he couldn't get up, he was just basically being lazy.
No, my son was in jail. My son was in jail.
No, this was before he had got locked up. I asked him twice.
He was in jail.
Why didn't you take the test?
I had the paper sent to jail to have the DNA testing.
Ms. Williams insists that she never denied Mr. Adams' paternity, but admits there were times she thought it might be her ex's child during her pregnancy. The judge highlights that the confusion surrounding the paternity and the dynamics of their relationships contributed to the current situation. The discussion reveals complexities in Ms. Williams' life choices, including working at a strip club while trying to care for her child.
So I gave them my name proud, like, you know, I'm Lassidere Adams. You know, I ain't think I had no warrant. Come to find out, he come back to me like, oh, Mr. Adams, you got a warrant for child support. I'm like, what? And next thing you know, he put me in the back of the car in handcuffs.
And how much time did you serve for this?
Like 10 days.
Despite the tensions, Ms. Williams states that she is now working and trying to improve the quality of her life for her child. The judge acknowledges her efforts to improve and encourages both parties to focus on their child's well-being. In an interesting, Mr. Adams reflects on his understanding of the situation, mentioning that he felt excluded from discussions about paternity until it became necessary for support.
But that's not making her feel any better, because the truth is she's trying to figure out who her child's father is, not just for her, not just for support, but I'm sure these tears, this is about your child. Am I correct?
This is about my kid. I don't care about how nobody feels. I just want to get this over with.
It was clear Ms. Williams did not care. The judge points out that Ms. Williams named her child after her ex-boyfriend, which was an absolutely insane thing to do, by the way, which raises further questions about paternity. Mr. Adams asserts that he has heard rumors about other men being tested for paternity, but Ms. Williams clarifies that only her ex-boyfriend was tested. The judge continues to probe for clarity, urging them to address the main concern, determining the child's true parentage and what that means for all parties involved.
What you are is in a bad situation because of bad decisions. And what I want you to learn from this lesson is, when the court calls, you got to answer. And let me really keep it real. Because of your irresponsibility, you've created a situation where you might go to jail.
The parties of this case were not in court to play games. As much as $10,000 were at stake, and even bigger than that was the paternity of 2 children. This is the case of Redmond Jr. versus Patterson. Mr. Redmond was in court because he owed over $10,000 in child support for 2 teenage daughters, Laquanda and Kesha, whom he claims are not his. Ms. Patterson asserts she is 100% sure that both girls are his daughters and is eager to prove this today.
Good day.
Mr. Redmond, you currently owe more than $10,000 in child support for the defendant's 2 teenage daughters, Laquanda Redmond and Iesha Redmond, who you say are not yours. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Patterson, you say you are 100% certain that both girls are his daughters, and you cannot wait to prove the truth today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Redmond, why is it taking you so long to get this issue resolved?
In a very real and upfront moment, Mr. Redmond explains that for 19 years, he has been taking care of the girls. He has been jailed for his child support debt, totaling over $16,000. Despite this, he believes neither child belongs to him. Ms. Patterson responds, saying the girls are indeed his and that she has never cheated on him, which Mr. Redmond disputes, claiming he has caught her being unfaithful multiple times.
And he had his pants down.
That is a lie.
When I walked into the bathroom, Your Honor, his pants was down, and he quickly tried to pull them up, and she stood up.
That is a lie.
What?
Yes, Your Honor.
That is a
This
lie.
is when you all were dating?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh. You're saying that's not true?
That's not true.
So what's
Mr.
this
Redmond
next
is
picture?
lying.
Yes, Your Honor. This is a picture of me coming home from work, Your Honor. This was when we was married. Your Honor, I rode bicycle in the cold to go to work. Your Honor, when I got home, it was a tall, dark-skinned man walking out of my apartment.
That is not true, Your Honor.
Ms. Patterson, do you know anyone that looks like that?
To thicken the plot and prove his claims, the judge asks for Mr. Redmond to present his evidence. He shows a picture of Ms. Patterson and a man in the bathroom, suggesting inappropriate behavior. Ms. Patterson vehemently denies the accusation. Mr. Redmond insists that he has caught her cheating and recalls a specific incident where he entered their home to find a dark-skinned man leaving. Ms. Patterson claims he is fabricating stories, stating she does not know anyone matching that description.
But at this point in time, at her job, the front people told me where she was at, how to find her location. I went back there to find the location that they told me to go to.
Okay.
I observed Ms. Patterson in the bed with another man.
Oh,
on top of the man.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, so this is you observing?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you confront her?
I didn't confront her, Your Honor. I was so hurt and discouraged. I walked away, got in my car, and left.
Well, what kind of work was she doing in this room?
She was a housekeeper.
Oh.
Mr. Redmond describes setting up a secret tape recorder in their air vent after witnessing suspicious behavior. He claims to have recorded sounds that suggest infidelity, but Ms. Patterson argues that the recording contained only static noise. Additionally, he describes a moment when he went to Ms. Patterson's workplace and found her with another man. The judge asks for details about her job, and Ms. Patterson denies any wrongdoing, stating it would have been against the rules to engage in relationships while working.
I was not.
Why do you think he is just making all of this up?
Your Honor, I don't know. To tell you the truth, this is what I used to go through when we was married. So this is basically why the marriage had ended.
All right, so let's get to the second pregnancy because you all managed to stay married long enough to get pregnant again.
Yes, Your Honor.
So why do you feel Iesha is not your child? That's what I want to understand.
Because, Your Honor, I was so furious with Miss Patterson.
This case definitely didn't run out of its fair share of scandalous and unbelievable as it just kept giving and giving. Mr. Redmond narrates one more incident, saying he saw Ms. Patterson drinking and sitting on another man's lap at a family gathering. Ms. Patterson denies this, saying he constantly accuses her of cheating without basis. Mr. Redmond believes these incidents confirm that Laquandria might not be his daughter. He struggles to accept the situation and feels betrayed by Ms. Patterson's actions.
Which one?
That we was all married and, had kids.
Do you remember him expressing doubt over paternity during the process?
No, Your Honor.
I've kept the children out thus far because...
May I say something, Your Honor?
No. I kept the children out thus far because I did not want them to hear this testimony and even be more confused like I am, but I would like to hear from them now. Jerome, will you please escort Laquandria and Iesha into the courtroom? Yes. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Please state your name for the court. You first.
Iesha Redmond.
Iesha. And your name?
Laquandria Redmond.
All right. So,
moving on to another super issue, the judge shifts the discussion to their second child, Kesha. Mr. Redmond admits he was angry with Ms. Patterson during her pregnancy and claims they slept apart, contributing to his doubt about her fidelity. Ms. Patterson argues that Mr. Redmond was often absent and she took on the responsibilities of parenting, which he challenged.
Because he didn't have a house. He's always in and out of my life. He's never done anything for me.
And that hurts you?
I mean, it did, but then I had to realize again that he's nothing to me.
And so I want to hear from you, Iesha. How has this affected you? I see the tear. Has it hurt you growing up without a father?
When we was homeless and we had nothing, we called him and he never gave us nothing when we asked for money or anything, nothing.
And this is a man you've grown up believing is your father.
Yeah, I really love him.
The argument escalates as both parties throw accusations about their parenting roles. Ms. Patterson insists she was the one caring for the children while Mr. Redmond was out. Mr. Redmond counters that he taught their oldest daughter to walk and prepared formula for the babies. He insists he was there for all the important moments, but started doubting the children's paternity only after their marriage began to fall apart.
1 or 2 times, you think that's gonna do something? It ain't gonna do nothing. You don't help my mama pay bills. You don't help us with anything. I have to come out my pocket and help pay rent. You don't do nothing. I have to get a second job just to help my mama in the house. You don't do anything. Is it because you ain't had no money to pay for no DNA test? Is that because?
Laquandria.
Huh?
Mr. Redmond, she's speaking to you.
Reflecting on their relationship, the judge probes into Ms. Patterson's perspective, asking whether she ever thought Mr. Redmond doubted the children while they were together. As tensions rise, it becomes clear that the marriage was marked by mistrust and unresolved issues surrounding fidelity, leaving both parties eager for clarity on paternity.
The deepest part of herself and her emotions and how she feels. What is going on with you?
I mean, she's so disrespectful, Your Honor. I had to put up with the total disrespect of this young lady for a long time, Your Honor, for being called the B word, M and F in this, I don't care no more. Then I had to go to her.
So, do you believe that these are your biological children?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
Everybody clap, please.
All right, you know what? I'm not gonna prolong this confusion because what I have is going to alleviate all.
Cheating on your spouse on Valentine's Day is a different level of diabolical. That was exactly the case of Fetters versus Fetters. Mr. Fetters claims that his wife is a serial cheater and that their 9-month-old son, Corbin, is not his. He wants his name removed from the birth certificate once it is proven. Ms. Fetters acknowledges her mistakes but insists that Mr. Fetters is Corbin's father and is ready to prove it in court.
Mr. Fetters, you say you're in the midst of a divorce because your soon-to-be ex-wife is a serial adulterer who even cheated on you on Valentine's Day, which you believe resulted in the birth of her 9-month-old son, Corbin.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say there is no way you are Corbin's father and would like your name removed from the birth certificate when that is proven. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Fetters states that he is in court because he does not believe he is Corbin's father. He explains that their relationship started off well until 6 months in, when Ms. Fetters revealed she had slept with one of his family members. This revelation shocked him, but he still married her after a few years. He believes her cheating continued, particularly on Valentine's Day, which he thinks led to Corbin's birth.
He has no hard facts or information, and when I do sleep with someone else, I tell him the truth.
Well, Mr. Fetters, she says if she did it, she would tell you.
I find that hard to believe because come as when he was conceived, I had to pry the information as to...
Ms. Fetters responds by calling her husband irresponsible and accuses him of being emotionally weak. She denies sleeping with the family member and claims that he is making unfounded accusations. She insists that when she does cheat, she is honest with Mr. Fetters. Ms. Fetters admits to spending a night with her ex-husband on Valentine's Day, but argues that it was not a complete sexual encounter.
She tells me and persists to tell me nothing. I said, well, what happened last night to make you feel this way? She tells me that she had slept with her ex-husband, Justin. Not only once, but 3 times during the night.
Oh, that's incorrect.
That's not incorrect. That is very factual.
Oh my goodness.
Ms. Fetters, did you say that?
No, I did not.
What did you say?
I told him that I spent the night with him.
Was it protected sex?
Nope.
He actually didn't completely finish.
Okay, so he did not finish the act.
Correct.
And you admitted this to your husband.
Mr. Fetters describes the events of Valentine's Day, saying they went to a movie and had a good time. However, he claims that the night ended poorly when Ms. Fetters went to her ex-husband's place and slept with him. Ms. Fetters admits she spent the night with her ex but insists it wasn't a full sexual encounter, emphasizing that she communicated her actions to Mr. Fetters.
Constant
I've never had to beg and plead.
Yes, you did. You just said you did. Always.
So now this is the actual Valentine's Day.
Yes, Your
I
Honor.
mean, what a 24-hour period.
Man, it's the crazy.
I don't even know why you all went to the movie. I mean, you all are making a movie. This is a full-on movie. This movie is called 50 Shades of Messy.
The judge probes into the timeline, asking how soon after the incident Ms. Fetters discovered she was pregnant. She responds that she found out a month and a half later, with the conception window aligning with her time with both men. Mr. Fetters expresses his concern about the possibility that he might not be the father, especially since they had unprotected sex shortly after her night with the ex-husband.
Because he can't have children. A doctor told him his sperm count is too low to conceive.
So did the doctor tell him he can't have it?
Yes, it's a very low chance that he can have any children. That's why I wanted
very
to start
low is different than can't.
Right.
Well, he doesn't have any yet, so I don't know. I just don't think.
Do you have the paperwork?
I'm more than.
An emotionally conflicted Mr. Fetters reveals that, despite knowing about the affair, he was willing to forgive Ms. Fetters and hoped to keep their family together. The judge questions how Mr. Fetters could be intimate with Ms. Fetters just hours after learning of her betrayal. The emotional turmoil of the situation is evident as they both recount their feelings during this challenging time.
Doesn't completely fuse together. The cleft chin is a dominant trait, and a child with a cleft chin has inherited the gene from one parent or both parents.
I do not have one.
The judge reflects on the chaotic nature of the events, humorously calling it a crazy Valentine's Day, and compares their situation to a movie titled 50 Shades of Messy. The complexity of love, betrayal, and the quest for paternity creates a tense atmosphere as the court prepares for the next steps in determining Corbin's biological father.
Why does it have to be about the baby? Can't be about me?
Oh, but you have a boyfriend. Why would
What
you have
I
another
do
man
is
come
my
see
business.
you?
Who I
Okay,
have
so
come
there,
to
that
my
makes
home
plenty
is
of
my
sense.
So,
Why I
Ms.
don't believe that he
Fetter,
could
are
possibly
you
be the
are you
father.
stating that you are in fact back with your ex now?
No, I am not stating that. We are very close. We've known each other over 10 years. We were high school sweethearts. We have a friendship. He does not come over for any sexual anything. He comes over to just see me.
This case will get on your nerves. From the lack of understanding of genetics to the constant bickering, get ready to have your nerves pricked. Today's case, we have Mr. Boykin and Ms. Gully. Mr. Boykin claims that his relationship with Ms. Gully was just a brief fling. After disappearing for 9 months, Ms. Gully resurfaced, asserting that he is the father of her son, Messiah Gully. Mr. Boykin is confident that he is not the child's father and plans to prove this in court. Meanwhile, Ms. Gully insists that Mr. Boykin is the only man she slept with during the time she became pregnant, and she is sure he is Messiah's biological father.
Mr. Boykin, you claim that your relationship with the defendant was nothing more than a spring fling. You say after disappearing for 9 months, Ms. Gully resurfaced claiming you fathered her son, Messiah Gully. You are certain.
The judge asks Mr. Boykin why he is certain he is not the father. He replies that they only had sex a few times, describing their relationship as a summer breeze. He claims he didn't even know Ms. Gully was pregnant. Ms. Gully counters that she is certain Mr. Boykin is her child's father because he was the only man she was with during the conception. The judge probes into their relationship, asking how they met. Mr. Boykin explains they met at a store and that their relationship was purely sexual without any commitment.
I met her at the store.
Okay.
I met her at the store, you know, talked to her a couple times. We ended up having sex a couple times. It was just a sex
We
thing.
exchanged numbers.
Oh, you just meet at the store, exchange numbers, then you just had sex?
That was it.
Yes. Not that same day, no.
Okay. How often were you having sex, Mr. Boykin?
A few times, Your Honor. I stopped messing with her like in August.
Were you using protection?
At first we was, but then I started.
We never used protection. Never.
And I see Messiah was born in April.
At this point, everyone is tired of this case. Mr. Boykin states that they had sex multiple times without using protection. The judge points out that since Messiah was born in April, the timing aligns with their sexual encounters, suggesting it could lead to conception. Mr. Boykin continues to deny being the father, insisting he had no idea about the pregnancy. Ms. Gully maintains that she informed him of the pregnancy when she called him from the hospital, while Mr. Boykin recalls her calling only for money.
Right.
She stopped calling me. I was never there through the pregnancy or none of that.
So, wait a minute. You saying through the whole pregnancy,
I was
you'd
never
heard
there.
nothing?
Nothing.
No.
So you didn't even know she was pregnant?
He knew because I called him from the hospital.
She called me after the day she had the baby in the hospital.
I called him after I had my baby, after I cut him off, months before I had my baby, because all he did was call me, wanted to have sex. That was it. And I was sick and went up for it.
You just said, I don't want to deal with this?
Yes.
Because he wasn't trying to have a relationship.
Right.
Go to dinner, go to the movies, or anything like that.
Ask me, I'm feeling okay. No.
Because we are not in a relationship.
As they argue about the timeline, Ms. Gully claims she contacted Mr. Boykin after Messiah was born. Mr. Boykin asserts they lost contact and he was not present during her pregnancy. The judge explains that losing contact does not negate the possibility that Mr. Boykin could still be the father. Mr. Boykin shares his feelings of uncertainty when he visited the hospital after Messiah's birth, saying he thought to himself that the baby couldn't be his.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. Did you finally, after you talked to yourself and you went back and forth, did you finally go up there?
Your Honor, yeah, after I got myself together, I went up there. I hold the baby, I was looking at it. Then I looked at her, looking at the baby, looked at her, and I said, no, this ain't my baby. That's how I felt.
He stared at him for a minute, then he kissed him. He held him for a minute, maybe like 10 minutes, then he put him back down.
Ms. Gully says Mr. Boykin initially seemed interested in being a father, but denied it after her hospital stay. She claims he hasn't attempted to be involved in Messiah's life since the birth. The discussion then shifts to the possibility of a DNA test. Mr. Boykin states he wanted to take a test to confirm paternity, but Ms. Gully claims she returned the test and used the money for baby supplies.
And I mean, you have to understand, Mr. Boykin. I mean, Miss Gully had just had the baby. How's she going half on a DNA test and all of that, and she's still trying to heal and deal with the baby? Why wouldn't you just say, I want this result, I'm gonna pay for this test, as long as you agree to just test the baby?
I was trying to do that, Your Honor.
Finally, the case ends with the judge emphasizing the need to find out the truth about Messiah's paternity. Both parents express strong feelings about the situation, and the court plans to address the DNA results to determine whether Mr. Boykin is indeed Messiah's father. The outcome will be crucial in clarifying their roles and responsibilities concerning the child.
Nothing but what she told me.
What did she tell you?
It's a possibility it might be his, and a possibility it might be yours. That's exactly what she told me.
And when did she tell you this? At what point in this process, in this timeline, did she tell you that?
After she had the baby, Your Honor.
After the baby was born?
No, ma'am.
We ain't start talking until you had the baby. I did not talk to you until you had the baby.
Right.
Okay, well, so tell the truth.
Did you ever tell him, Miss Gully, that it could possibly be his baby or someone else's?
Like I told him, I strongly believe he's the father. I was messing around with this other guy. No, I don't believe he's the father.
Your Honor, shit not sure. That's unbalanced. How you gonna say you believe? Tell me I am or not.
Well, I know you're the father. He looks just like him.
Baby don't look like me.
And you submitted some pictures to the court that you say prove that Mr. Boykin is Messiah's biological father. This is a picture of beautiful baby Messiah.
You see the resemblance.
And you believe this picture.
This case was absolutely nuts. Ms. Lapine opens the case by expressing her shock. For 30 years, she believed Mr. Lapine was her father, until a family dinner conversation raised doubts. She reveals she's here today to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Mr. Lapine explains that he's faced jail time over unpaid child support and could be sent back if he is confirmed as her biological father, which makes this hearing critical for both of them.
Ms. Lapine, you say for the past 30 years, you'd always believed the defendant, Mr. Lapine, was your dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then just months ago at a family dinner, you were told by a family member that he's not your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Still in shock, you state you're here today to finally discover the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lapine, you say you've spent years in jail for unpaid child support and your life has been turned upside down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tomorrow you have yet another court date.
Yes, Your Honor.
To thicken the plot, the judge asks Ms. Lapine to recount the moment she heard Mr. Lapine might not be her father. She describes how the family was talking about their parents when someone hinted that she didn't resemble her father. Confused, she approached another family member, but they dismissed her concerns. Later, she called Mr. Lapine, who admitted that another man was around during that time, raising his own doubts.
So hold on, they gave you a name?
Gave me a name.
Of the man that was your father?
Yes.
Wow. Mr. Lapine.
Yes, ma'am.
For 30 years, all this time, you believe this young girl was your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. And I've been 4 to 5 years in jail, and it gets rough.
4 to 5 years in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
For unpaid child support.
Yes, Your Honor.
For a young woman that calls you and then says, some family member told me you may not even be my biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
You actually have a court date tomorrow.
1:30 tomorrow afternoon.
A clearly traumatized Mr. Lapine, who thought Ms. Lapine was his daughter all along, reflects on the toll of spending years in jail over child support payments. He reveals that he's scheduled for another court hearing the following day, which could lead to further imprisonment. The judge inquires if he's been in trouble for anything other than child support, to which Mr. Lapine responds that it's the only reason he's ever been jailed.
So after you learned her mother was pregnant, you went on and married and signed the birth certificate and you stepped up to be the father.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you remember her mother being intimate with anybody else during that time?
I didn't know then. After me and her separated, I was told by friends of mine that they had slept with her and other people.
Wow. So as you look at...
Risking an answer. She may not be ready for emotionally. Ms. Lapine questions if her father ever doubted her paternity over the years. He explains that he trusted her mother initially, only to learn later from friends that she might have been unfaithful. He confesses he had always wondered if Ms. Lapine looked like him, noting that she bears no resemblance to him or his other daughter.
What are you holding in your hand?
This is a picture we took last week of
Me, my dad, and my sister.
And you feel like you strongly resemble your father.
Right.
But Brandy does not.
Right.
When you look at this picture, Brandy, what do you feel?
I always thought that I just got my mother's side of the genes. I always thought, you know.
The judge invites Ms. Lapine's sister, Jennifer, to testify. Jennifer shares that although she believed Ms. Lapine was her sister, family members had made jokes about paternity in the past. She explains how this doubt has affected not just her and Ms. Lapine, but also their entire family, who grew up believing one reality only to have it questioned. This situation was clearly taking its toll on everyone concerned.
You and her mother broke up.
I come home, she come into where I was sitting and told me, I want you to move out.
And how old was Miss Lapine then? How old was your daughter?
3. I just packed my stuff and left. Now I wish I'd never left.
Jennifer holds up a recent family photo, pointing out the striking resemblance between herself and their father, a resemblance that Ms. Lapine lacks. Ms. Lapine reflects on how she always believed she inherited her father's attitude, even if she looked more like her mother. The judge notes the significant financial and emotional impact on Mr. Lapine, who has paid child support over the years and even been jailed, questioning how this uncertainty affects him. It clearly has been tough.
And when they take my child support out, I only get $600 a month after that. That's it.
So they're taking for your arrears.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Brandy, I have to ask you, what have the last couple of months been like struggling with this information?
Mr. Lapine submits evidence showing his long history of child support payments, including records dating back to 1998. He describes the challenges of maintaining a job while being repeatedly jailed over unpaid support, explaining the cycle of losing jobs and getting behind on payments. The judge emphasizes how high the stakes are, with another court date looming that could lead to more jail time if today's result isn't in his favor.
Because after 10 years, I missed out of you guys' life. Like I said, that was my mistake.
Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to say before we go to the results?
In a way, I'm jealous of them because my dad raised them, but he didn't raise me. He wasn't there for me, but he was there for them.
In the case of Lapine versus Lapine, when it comes to Jennifer Lapine, Mr. Richard Lapine, you are her father.